The Gladiator School. At the Gladiator School, Servus lived in a cell just like a prison cell, but he was taken out every day for gladiator training. First, he had to pass a test to see how fit he was. Two trainers, big men with scars on their faces, wearing armor and carrying short, sharp swords, walked all around him. They poked him and squeezed his arms. They pointed to a post 100 feet away. "How quickly can you run to that post and back?" one asked. Servus scowled at the man. He didn't want to learn how to fight, but if he didn't, he would be killed. Finally, he turned around and ran to the post and back. "Very good," the trainer said. "Now let's see how you do for endurance." For the rest of the day, the two trainers forced Servus to run, jump, wrestle, and climb. By night, he was covered with sweat and mud and was so tired he could hardly drag himself back to his cell. But he had passed the test. The next day, Servus stood in the courtyard along with 5 other prisoners. "You will be gladiators," one of the trainers shouted. "Repeat after me the oath of the gladiator. I undertake to be burnt by fire, to be bound in chains, to be beaten by rods, and to die by the sword. To be a gladiator is a wonderful privilege. You are indeed lucky." Servus swallowed nervously. He didn't feel lucky, but all around him, the other prisoners were repeating the gladiator's oath. So he took the oath as well. The next thing he knew, they were being marched off to their first training exercise, swinging wooden swords at straw men, propped up against the gladiator school wall. The trainers had once been gladiators. They taught Servus and the other new recruits sword fighting moves. When Servus had learned the moves, he then fought against one of the other gladiator students. They both had wooden swords, so no one got killed. But Servus didn't parry quickly enough, and the other student's wooden sword crashed against his side. He was sore for days, but the trainers just laughed at him. "You'd better learn to be tough," one of them said. "We don't care if it hurts. Just keep fighting. You'll get hurt worse than that when you fight in the arena." In the arena, Servus's heart sank. He already knew that his first fight in the arena was only a week away. He was to be a secutor, a gladiator who chased net fighters around the arena. He had already practiced fighting with his real weapons and armor: a short, strong sword, a large shield, and a metal leg guard that covered his left leg. On his head, he wore a round helmet with 2 tiny eye holes. He could barely see out of the helmet. How would he ever catch a net fighter? What if the net fighter caught him first? On the day of the fight, Servus was taken to the arena, a large bare space near the outer walls of Rome. Wooden seats had been built all around it. They were filled with men and women and even children. All of them were cheering and shouting. They were enjoying this. Servus's trainer put his helmet on and tightened his armor. "Go get him," he said, and pushed Servus into the arena. The metal helmet was hot and tight. Servus felt like he could barely breathe. He turned his head and caught sight of his opponent, a net fighter, creeping towards him from the other side of the arena. The net fighter threw his net. Servus felt like it struck against his shield. He advanced forward, waving his sword. The net fighter backed away. Suddenly, he turned and began to run. "He's as frightened as I am," Servus thought. He started to chase the net fighter. His heavy armor slowed him down. The net fighter wasn't wearing armor. He was getting away. Suddenly, the net fighter tripped and stumbled. Before he knew it, Servus was standing right over top of him. He could hardly believe it. He had won the match. He put his foot on the net fighter's chest and looked around him. The crowd was booing and making the thumbs down sign. Servus knew what that meant. They wanted him to kill his opponent. If the net fighter had been brave and bold, the crowd might have had pity on him and turned their thumbs up. Then Servus could show mercy and let the other man live. But he was supposed to do whatever the crowd said. Servus looked down. The net fighter knew what the thumbs down meant. He had closed his eyes. He thought he was about to die. Servus stepped back and put his sword back in its sheath. "Get up," he said. "I can't kill you. I'm not an animal. I know that it would be wrong to kill a man for a sport." The net fighter scrambled away from him, hardly able to believe his ears. The crowd was booing louder and louder. They wanted to see blood. But Servus turned around and walked back towards his trainer. He knew he would be punished. Maybe he would even be killed. But he knew now that he could not kill another man. The Romans were great, powerful people, but they were also bloodthirsty. They liked to see men hurt. They enjoyed seeing blood. Some of the historians who lived in Rome thought that this bloodthirstiness was wrong and evil. They wrote about men like Servus who refused to kill their opponents in the arena. Some even killed themselves so that they would not be forced to kill another man. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote in a letter to a friend, "The show was even better to watch when this happened, because the men in the audience learned that it is more decent to die than to kill."